This is wrestling's greatest moments.
Hey now, wrestling fans, it's time for another episode of Wrestling's Greatest Moments. Terry Funk lived an incredible life with a wrestling career dating from 1965 to 2017. Thus, it's no surprise he had many memorable matches and storylines during his celebrated career. Sit back as Wrestling's Greatest Moments looks at Terry Funk's Greatest Moments, Part 1. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. On December 10, 1975, Terry Funk joined his older brother Dory Funk Jr. in entering an elite club of individuals, those who had captured the National Wrestling Alliance's World Heavyweight Championship. Ironically, Dory Funk Jr. was set to challenge then-champion Jack Brisco for the title, but was unable to make it. This led to NWA officials allowing Terry Funk to substitute for his brother, and the bout booked for a Miami, Florida house show. There was plenty of controversy surrounding the match. As Jack Brisco noted, he had trained to face Dory rather than Terry. However, the real controversy occurred during the match when Jack had Terry covered for a 5 count. At least that's how commentator Gordon Soley described things. However, the referee was dazed and unable to make the count. The match went back and forth until Brisco went to apply the Indian Deathlock. Funk countered with a small package, capturing the title and going on to hold it for an impressive 420 days. In his memoir, Terry Funk, More Than Hardcore, the Funker would recall that magical moment. I was a heel during the match, but as soon as the referee counted 3 and the title change was official, I became the de facto babyface for a few seconds. The crowd just exploded. It was so rare to actually see a world title change that it was like they were there for history, even though they were Brisco's fans during the match. The week before and the week after, when that moment took place right in front of them, they couldn't believe it, and they were elated. Terry eventually dropped the belt to Harley Race, the same man who had defeated Terry's brother Dory for the NWA World Championship in 1973. Terry and Dory Funk Jr. formed a formidable tag team. Although they worked their early years in their father's Texas-based promotion, they didn't always team up. In fact, they occasionally found themselves on separate teams. However, when they did wrestle together, fans knew they were going to see something special, particularly when they stepped into the ring against another set of brothers, Jack and Jerry Brisco. Jack Brisco was a persistent opponent for Terry Funk in championship wrestling from Florida. Over time, the brothers Brisco and the brothers Funk began throwing down in tag team matches, including some violent encounters such as lights out matches and Texas death matches. They fought over tag team titles including the Florida Tag Team Championship, the Georgia Tag Team Championship, the NWA International Tag Team Championship, and even vied for the NWA World Tag Team Championship in a tournament held in 1983. Like any good feud, the Funk vs. Briscoes had an underlying premise, in this case, family pride. As Terry Funk describes it, Junior and I also had a long feud with the Brisco brothers that played off of the same type of thing and went back to our families. We claimed they were trying to dominate wrestling and that we were the one truly great family in the profession. While there were many teams comprised of brothers and matches involving them, few can compare to the intensity of the Briscoes versus the Funks. Jack Brisco's rivalry with Terry and Dory Funk over various championships made it inevitable that his brother Jerry would join him at some point, and the chemistry shown in their match still holds up well today. Wrestling feuds can define a career, as seen with legendary programs such as Ric Flair vs. Ricky Steamboat, Nick Bockwinkel vs. Vern Gagne, Hulk Hogan vs. Randy Savage, or in this case, Terry Funk vs. Dusty Rhodes. Although Funk and Rhodes had many other top-notch opponents, few came close to seeming as personal in their war, a war which only intensified through the years. The Terry Funk vs. Dusty Rhodes program was a go-to for promoters who wanted to make money. The two feuded in several territories, but championship wrestling from Florida was arguably their best-known battleground in North America. According to Terry, Florida was another. I could always go back to Florida and work with Dusty Rhodes. It was a feud that never lost steam. It had steam since the day we started. Some of the angles we did were silly, but our feud always had believability to it. One of their best-known battles in Florida happened when the two met in an I Quit match. While Terry's 1989 I Quit match against Ric Flair is arguably the better known of the two, this one shouldn't be dismissed. Funk claims he invented the match, and while such claims are difficult to verify, anyone who watched a match still talks about it. For example, Kayfabe Memories Mike Siegel wrote about his memories of the bout. The match progresses past the 30-minute point, both men asking for the I Quit on several occasions, but neither willing to quit. A short while longer, Rhodes gains a large edge on Terry Funk and begins giving him a solid Texas whooping. The violence continued, with Dusty dishing out plenty of punishment to his foe. Ironically, Funk had challenged Dusty to the match. After several minutes of this, Gary Hart tires of the horrible beating that Funk is taking. He grabs the mic and yells, "He quits! He quits! You're gonna kill him!" The referee calls for the bells, and Rhodes is declared the winner. Terry never actually said I quit, but lost the match anyway. Both men had an undeniable chemistry in the ring, and during their exchanges on the microphone, Terry Funk would talk about he and Dusty borderlined each other on promos, cutting close to home whether it was mocking their families or personal appearance. I would make fun of his family, his weight, everything I said was strongly derogatory. People bought it because they thought no one would allow anybody to say that kind of about them. One of Terry's best-known insults was when he cut a promo on Dusty that would become synonymous with their feud. "Dusty Rhodes, you make me want to puke. You're an apathetic, sympathetic, diabetic, egg-sucking dog." Funk even had a t-shirt made that read, "Dusty is an egg-sucking dog." Another sign of how he knew how to cultivate heel heat in so many different ways. Terry would utilize every opportunity to spark a new feud with Dusty, and the two continued battling throughout their career, a sign of their talent and ability to use it to bring in fans wherever they were. In April 1981, wrestling fans didn't get to witness one of the most brutal matches in Memphis wrestling, despite the bout taking place at the Mid-South Coliseum. No, this match took place with no fans present, something highly unusual for a business based on selling tickets as its chief source of revenue. In 1981, Terry Funk was feuding with Memphis's beloved wrestler, Jerry the King Lawler, and Funk felt he was at a distinct disadvantage due to Lawler having the home ground. While home field advantage is recognized in sports, few, if any, wrestlers had complained about an opponent having the edge thanks to their fans. However, Terry Funk was no ordinary wrestler, and he demanded that Lawler give him a match with no one present other than announcer Lance Russell and a camera crew. In a 2020 interview with Sports Illustrated, Funk recalled the match's origin. "The empty arena was my idea. Nobody told me what to say. Nobody told me what to do. I was my own creator. I loved the wrestling profession. Things weren't predetermined then like they are now. Maybe a few things were, but the majority of the match was not. Things were different, and with that empty arena match, Lawler was a great performer. He was a good talker in the promos, and he could perform in the ring. The match's finish is not for the faint of heart. Although Lawler portrayed a babyface, he was known for doing whatever was necessary to get revenge on an opponent, whether it was throwing a fireball at an opponent or here, taking a piece of wood from a broken chair and gouging Funk in the eye with it until he wailed, "My eye! My eye!" Funk surrendered, with Lawler winning the match and Terry making his opponent look like $1 million. 2 decades later, Funk would revisit his feud with the King, recalling that fateful day when Lawler nearly took his eye out and vowing to pay him back in kind. The rematch was an example of how smart promoters and wrestlers know how to capitalize on wrestling history to hype a new match. In 1989, Terry Funk appeared at World Championship Wrestling's pay-per-view, Wrestle War, to serve as a judge in the main event match between NWA World Champion Ricky Steamboat and previous champion Nature Boy Ric Flair. Funk would render a decision. In the event the match went the time limit, but it didn't. Instead, Flair pinned Steamboat to regain the title. WCW announcer Jim Ross was interviewing the new champion when Terry Funk entered the ring to congratulate Flair. Then, Funk said he also wanted to be the first to challenge Flair for a title shot. Flair was baffled, but told Funk he was required to wrestle opponents who were ranked in the top 10, a status which separated WCW from other promotions. Funk persisted, with Flair telling him he wasn't even ranked in the top 10, as he'd been too busy rubbing shoulders with Sylvester Stallone. Funk had appeared in several films, including Stallone's Paradise Alley, and more recently the Patrick Swayze vehicle Roadhouse. Funk seemed taken aback, asking Flair, "You're saying I'm not good enough?" Flair denied this, and said it was just a case of Funk not being rated in the top 10. Finally, Funk relented, telling Flair he was only kidding, and he offered to shake Flair's hand. Flair leaned in only for Funk to clobber him with a left hand. Things got worse from there as Funk threw the Nature Boy out of the ring, proceeding to pummel him. Flair had just wrestled over 30 minutes and was virtually defenseless. Funk took his rage out on Flair by pile-driving him on a table, a move that was rarely seen at the time. This led to an injury angle where WCW announcers told fans that Flair might not ever be able to wrestle again. Naturally, this was a work to build up to a feud with Funk. But in the meantime, Terry did everything he could to enrage the fans. He called Flair yellow, even having a Ric Flair impersonator show up. As we mentioned earlier, Terry Funk was known for his passionate promos and his willingness to borderline opponents by mocking their personal traits. In this case, Funk often referred to Flair as Banana Nose. According to the Funker, Flair took things personally. Flair was really bothered by this stuff, and I was told to tone it down a little bit. I didn't see the problem, because I was a heel. The ending was going to be that Flair was going to kick I sure wasn't going to say all these outrageous things and then go home and hang up my tights. Flair returned, igniting a hot feud with Funk that brought a state of realism fans of traditional wrestling were only too happy to watch. One angle saw Funk place a plastic bag over Flair's head in an attempt to take him out for good. The two met in singles and tag team matches until an I Quit match was booked for WCW's Clash of Champions 9, New York Knockouts. On November 15, 1989, Flair and Funk wrestled their last match in the feud, punishing each other as they sought to force their foe to say, "I quit." Unlike Funk's I Quit match against Dusty, he would be forced to say the humiliating words this time. As Ric Flair recalls in his memoir, Ric Flair to be the man, he locked in his figure 4 submission hold on Funk. "I propped up my back and appeared to clamp down with even more pressure. Finally, Terry groaned and flapped his arms. 'My leg is breaking. Yes, I quit.' With great agony, Funk boosted himself up on the ropes. 'Shake my hand right now,' I demanded. When he hesitated, I shoved him. Terry shoved me back and blurted, 'You're a hell of a man, Ric Flair.' I clasped his hand, then threw it down and raised my arm to the crowd." Once again, Terry Funk had worked his best to entertain his fans and make an opponent look strong as their feud ended. What are your favorite memories from Terry Funk's career? Don't worry if we missed any, because there's another video on the way. Share your thoughts in the comment section and let us know if there are any videos you'd like Wrestling's Greatest Moments to cover. In the meantime, subscribe to our channel, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and spread the good news about Wrestling's Greatest Moments, the channel that celebrates the squared circle.